Hello, everyone. So let us continue with the listening day three class of the IELTS online series. And today will be the last class for the listening section. I hope that you are practicing the questions that we have already discussed. And in today's class, we will be discussing the remaining question types for the listening section, which are diagram label completion, summary completion, and labeling maps. All right. So these are the last questions that are remaining in the listening section. And let us start. Now let us start with the summary completion question type. In the summary completion question type, as I have already mentioned, this I had actually put this question in the first category of question, which is note, table, a flow chart, or a summary completion question. Now, I believe that we missed it in the first class, so we will just do it quickly. Now, the only difference between this question is that it's in the format of a summary, and all you have to do is fill in the blanks, right? So it's pretty much straightforward to identify this question type. Again, let us employ the strategies that we have discussed for the listening section. Read the instructions very carefully and look at the word limit for the question. Now, in this case, as we can see that the word limit is no more than 2 words for each answer, and we cannot write numbers for this question. Also, when you have some time to look at the question, please make sure that you are reading the question, trying to understand the context, underlining the keywords, or at least keeping your eye at the keywords which has been given while being aware about the synonyms that the speaker can use. So let us quickly look at the question and then we will start doing this question as well. All right, so this was all about underlining the major keywords in the question, which may allow you to listen to the speaker and grasp the answer that you are looking for. Now I'll play the audio and let us do this question together.
Section 4. You will hear a talk on the importance of soil in organic agriculture. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Welcome to this talk on soil science and organic farming. Dirt, soil, earth, loam, mud, or dust, it doesn't matter what you call it, is of primary importance in the production of food and other crops. Most people think of it just as a substrate or medium in which plants grow, but it's more than that. It's actually a living entity, or it should be if it's healthy, and human health is affected by the health of the soil. Healthy, living soil is literally crawling with life. There are the obvious earthworms, which burrow in the soil and help to aerate and improve it, beetles and other hard-backed insects, and various invertebrates like centipedes. Then there are fungi and bacteria, also living forms. Healthy soil needs food, air, and water to help plants grow. And the more nutrients in plants, the more available for humans and livestock. It stands to reason, therefore, that plants grown in poor soil will have few nutrients to pass on to the consumer, whose well-being will be worse off over the long term. So, where do plants get their nourishment? Most of it comes from the soil. Some nutrients are made up of minerals from the earth, while others come from dead plant and animal matter, which is broken down over time by the living insects and other organisms in the soil. Plants depend on these little living creatures to convert minerals and other vital elements into a utilizable form that can be taken up by the plants. And it's a synergistic relationship. In turn, the plants assist those helpful organisms by releasing sugars and enzymes back into the soil. Before I go any further, let's take a look at the structure.
All right, so that was all about the summary completion content, and I'm sure that you heard the speaker say that you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. So we will actually be dividing those questions as per the question type, and then we will continue doing the question number 31 to 40. However, for the summary completion question, this was one sample question for you to know the type of summary completion question. Now, in this case as well, we did see that the speaker is using a lot of rephrases and a lot of synonyms for words such as steaming or, rephrasing for human health will suffer and so on and so on. However, if you actually listen to the content attentively, you will be able to find the answers like we did just now. So this is all about the summary completion question, and let us move on to the next question type. So the next question type is a diagram label completion, and here is a sample for a diagram label question type. So in a diagram label question, as I have already mentioned in the first class while discussing the question types, instead of having text, you are going to see a diagram and you are required to label the diagram or fill in the blanks on the basis of the information given in the diagram. Now, in this case as well, the first thing that we are going to do is read the instructions given and the word limit, which is no more than 2 words for each answer. So we have a word count of only 2 words. And also try to understand the context of the figure given here. So as we can see, the heading of the diagram is layers of soil. So actually that gives us an idea that as we can see in the figure, the speaker is going to talk about different layers of soils. And also please make sure that even though the answers does seem to be, in an descending order. So first of all, we have 34, then we have 35, then we have 36. So don't write the answer for 34 in the option number 36, right? So start from 34. All right, so I'll play the audio now and let us do this question.
Before I go any further, let's take a look at the structure of soil. Now, if you look at the diagram, you'll see that soil is made up of many different layers. Let's start at the bottom. This is the bedrock under all the other layers. The layer above that is called regolith. Here, the bedrock is slightly broken up, but plant roots don't penetrate this layer. Moving up the chart to the next layer, we come to the subsoil, which contains clay and mineral deposits. On top of that is the alluviation or leaching layer. This is quite light in color and is mostly just sand and silt. As we get near the surface, we find the topsoil. You will hear a lot of talk about topsoil amongst farmers and other agriculturalists. It's the most important layer of all because it's where seeds germinate and roots grow. Now, at the top of the chart, you will see a comparatively thin layer. This is organic matter that is still in the process of decomposition. It mostly consists of leaf litter and humus. Just think of the surface of the forest floor, partly decayed leaves and twigs, that sort of thing.
All right, great. So that was all about the diagram level completion question. Now, in this case, you saw a contextual representation of what the speaker was trying to say. Now, obviously, there can be different kinds of diagram depending on what type of content or context you are listening to, right? Now, in this case, also the answers were pretty much in order. We did follow through the speaker while also looking at the keywords in the question, and we were able to figure out our answer. All right. Now let us move on to next question, which is a note completion question in the same 31 to 40 question sequence. However, we should be doing this question because the note completion that we did in part one is mostly was in a social context and was rather easy. Now let us do a note completion question in an academic context, which can actually be a little bit vast or difficult. All right. So now again, read the instructions very carefully. So again, we are not required to write more than 2 words, and also try to look at the keywords that we have here in the question, right? So let us quickly skim the question here. All right. So I'll play the audio now and let us do this question.
You can imagine, good soil forms very slowly over time, but it can be lost very rapidly through erosion. And in addition, soil quality can be affected by pollution due to anything from industrial waste to the artificial fertilizers used by conventional farmers, which have been shown to suppress the diverse life forms in the soil. This is why organic agriculture is the way of the future. Let's take a quick look at the conventional system, which is often based on monoculture, the production of a single large crop. It relies on chemicals for fertilizer and pest control. It is also becoming an increasingly common practice to use genetically engineered seeds. And more chemicals are used to control insects and fungi, which attack crops in storage and during transportation. Also, did you know that there is no requirement for conventional growers to maintain records of their production practices? Organic growers, on the other hand, choose the most environmentally friendly options for dealing with pests and disease problems, working towards prevention in the first place. Some of the strategies they employ include alternating the crops grown in each field, as opposed to monocropping. Because different plants add different nutrients to the soil, by rotating crops, the soil is naturally replenished. This can do away with the need for pesticides, because the problem insects' life cycles are naturally interrupted. Surrounding crops with green waste can not only conserve moisture in the soil, but it can prevent weeds from springing up, and it also feeds the beneficial microorganisms. When it's plowed under, it feeds the soil by building more organic matter. Organic farmers often release beneficial insects as predators, which precludes the need for artificial pesticides. Animal manure, combined with green waste materials, correctly composted to kill pathogens and weed seeds, fertilizes the soil in a way that encourages life rather than suppressing it. And, by the way, use of manure in organic farming is highly regulated. In fact, all agricultural inputs are evaluated for their long-term effects on the environment, regardless of whether they are synthetic or natural. To sum up, organic farming is the only sustainable way of feeding the people on this planet and keeping both the planet and the people in good health.
All right, so that was all about the note completion question. So as you saw as you heard, the content was a really lot. So the speaker talks about a lot of things, and not necessary that you have to write everything that the speaker is talking about. You just need to answer the question by understanding the context, right? Now, this was a very good example of a note completion question in the part 4 section. All right, so here are the answers, and I believe that all the answers that we have written are actually correct. So let us move on to the final question type for the listening section, which is a maps completion question. And here is a sample for the map completion question. Now, again, similar to that of the diagram label completion question, you are not going to see a text, but rather a figure. And as per the questions that has been given, you are required to label them as mentioned in the map. Now, in this case, let us try to read the instructions very carefully and see what the question requires us to do. So the question asks us, write the correct letter A to I next to question 15 to 20, and these are the questions 15 to 20. And the A to I are the locations that has been already labeled in the map, so now we just need to match, right? Now, obviously, map completion can be difficult for a lot of people, but with practice, you can actually get better at it. At the same time, if you actually miss one location, just don't be disappointed and move on and try to figure out the other options. So it's very important for you to, move on if you just miss one question. All right. So I'll play the audio now and let us continue with this question.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20. Okay, let me tell you about some of the changes that have been made and some things that have been retained. If you look at this map, you'll see the familiar outline of the park, with the river forming the northern boundary, and a gate in each of the other three walls. The statue of Diane Gosforth has been moved. It used to be close to the south gate, but it's now immediately to the north of the lily pond, almost in the center of the park, which makes it much more visible. There's a new area of wooden sculptures, which are on the riverbank, where the path from the east gate makes a sharp bend. There are two areas that are particularly intended for children. The playground has been enlarged and improved, and that's between the river and the path that leads from the pond to the river. Then there's a new maze, a circular series of paths separated by low hedges. That's near the west gate. You go north from there towards the river and then turn left to reach it. There have been tennis courts in the park for many years, and they've been doubled from 4 to 8. They're still in the southwest corner of the park, where there's a right-angled bend in the path. Something else I'd like to mention is the new fitness area. This is right next to the lily pond on the same side as the west gate. Now, as you're all gardeners, I'm sure you'll like to hear about the plants that have been chosen for the park.
All right, great. So as you saw, the speaker was clearly giving instructions, and there were some phrases which was southwest or southeast and north side. So directions has already also been given in the map. So obviously you need to be careful about these directions, and it's not going to be very exact, but you can actually make sense out of it and find the answers for these questions. So let us look at the questions, answers as well, and as we can see, the answers for each of the question is E, C, B, A, G, D. And yes, we have gotten all the answers correct. So now that will be all about the types of questions that we have in the listening section. And this is all that you need to know for the listening section. Now, if you keep on practicing these question types, you will be good to go to take the IELTS listening exam and may even be able to score a 9 out of 9. All right, so I'll see you guys in the next class. And in the next class, we'll talk about the writing section, and I will try to make a detailed video about each task of the writing section. See you in next class. Thank you, guys.